Welcome to Crimson Chaos Stories, episode 4. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Tonight I have 2 and you have
2
as well. So 4 in total. Let's get yours first, because yours is the longer one.
Do you want the Rougarou or the goat man?
Do the Rougarou first.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, this is our cryptozoology
Yes.
episode. I posted it on Facebook. It's like Bigfoot, Nessie, but we're not doing those. Doesn't mean we don't love them. And apparently, like when we heard on the radio, Nessie escaped.
Oh yeah, and someone said it was too small to be that, so everyone's like showing and zooming on. It's just a duck.
Or a really big swan.
Yeah, it's a swan duck, or it's like a log that resembles it. Most people take pictures of before.
Yeah. So this is cryptozoology. My 2 cryptos are the Rougarou and the goat man, and yours are?
Mine is on the wendigo and a possible werewolf sighting.
So speaking of werewolves, we'll get to the Rougarou. So the Rougarou is basically a French werewolf.
Bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Nope.
Tu ne parles pas français. It was brought over from France when people would immigrated to New France, nowadays Louisiana. It is said to be a being with the head of a wolf and the body of a man, and prowls the sugarcane fields and swamps, and wolves are not native to Louisiana at all. Now, from what I could find from a Rougarou, some say it is a cursed being for breaking the rules of Lent and kill those who also break the rules. Some say you have to break the rules of Lent for 7 years in order to become a Rougarou. While a person is a Rougarou, they can have the curse for 101 days, and people who encounter one must not tell what happened, or else they will become one themselves. One of the stories I found of the Rougarou is of a little boy. So the boy was walking one day and a big dog was following him, edging him to attack him. The boy ignored him, but the dog kept insisting. Finally, the boy had had enough and slashed the dog with his pocket knife. But as it turns out, it wasn't a dog, it was a Rougarou. Before he died, he reminded the boy to never speak of what happened or else he'll be like him. But sadly, the boy could not and told his tale. Then he started leaving the house later and later each night until one night he didn't come home at all and no one saw him in human form ever again. Another story I found of the Rougarou was of a young married woman who had wandered into the woods and came across one. Locking eyes with it, the spell was broken of the Rougarou, turning him back into human form. The old saying is the eyes are the window to the soul, so locking eyes would break the spell. But after her encounter, she dared not tell her husband for fear the curse would take her as well. Now, the Rougarou may not be that bad. Like, the best way I could describe him is a Cajun Krampus.
Okay.
Because some say the Rougarou, he is used to scare children into being good and eating the bad children and the bad Catholics who misbehave.
They have their tails, okay.
Yeah, and like all the pictures I found is like he's wearing pants and being very dapper, so I think this was the good guy werewolf I was thinking of, but I couldn't find the exact story, but this was the closest one, especially with the pictures. Now, how the curse of being a Rougarou varies from story to story. It's either when someone tells someone they've come in contact with one and or killed one, or it's transferred from person to person when the Rougarou drinks their blood. However, the person will look sick for 101 days and will only turn into a Rougarou if they tell anyone of the encounter. And one of the other ways I found to become a Rougarou is having a witch curse you or herself with lycanthropy.
That's fucked up and interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of like different ways to become a Rougarou, and like the whole thing with like there was a bunch of like different ways about like looking in the eyes, and like turn it back into human. But the main thing with the Rougarou is you can never tell anyone that you like came in contact with one or killed one or anything, or else you're going to turn into a Rougarou. And like it was like saying like the Rougarou knows who kills him before he dies.
So there's a premonition of who's gonna kill him.
It was really kind of hard to find, like, because like
That's what it seems like. It's like I have a premonition of the person killing. I'm gonna egg them on.
The person's gonna be right there and kill them, and as soon as they kill them, they turn back into human. And tell them the warning to tell everyone what happened, or else you'll be like me. And because where like the Rougarou is mainly seen, is in small communities around Louisiana, so everyone would know each other.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the main thing, but the main thing is just don't tell anyone you met a Rougarou. And the funny thing is I found was there is something.
Yeah, there's something trotting back there.
There is. I really hope it's not a coyote, but my dogs are locked up.
Oh, yeah, a coyote or a mountain lion.
No, it'd be up in the trees if it was a mountain lion.
Yeah.
That's eerie.
Just a tad.
But so the Rougarou's name, from what I can find, derived from French, is literally wolf wolf.
The boy who cried wolf.
I go to Moon Moon. If anyone remembers that meme, Moon Moon.
Well, the end of memes.
I loved Moon Moon. Moon Moon was best wolf. So that was my good guy, like my Cajun Krampus.
Pretty much, but even with going with Krampus on it, you can't kill him.
No, that'll be our Yule special. We'll do like, ooh, this chair is not stable.
Well, this whole deck isn't stable.
Yeah, that'll be our Yule special. Oh, happy late Mabon. For all of you who say celebrate Mabon. He doesn't, I do, and I'm really bad at it. Like, yeah.
It just stopped.
I know it did.
Alrighty, let's get back to these stories.
I don't think it'll come to us if we're making too much noise.
Yeah, and there's a fence and we're 3 stories up, about 30-foot drop.
Yeah, like we will hear it climbing up the tree before it gets to us.
Yeah.
I think it's just a coyote.
Probably.
Oh no, I heard the squirrel bearing the nuts.
They're asleep.
I know, but it might be a fox. We got foxes up here.
Alright.
It's just probably just one of the critters.
Yeah, it's just eerie behind us with these ones.
I know. Especially, ironically, we're doing cryptozoology and then we hear something trotting. Like pacing back and behind us.
Yeah, that's not fun. Alright, let's...
do you want to do your little one and then we'll get to the long ones?
Yeah, I'll do this one. The one I'm about to tell is one I found online. I forget which site I was on, but it refers to a couple of youth kids in New Mexico.
Good old New Mexico.
Yeah, this was in January of 1970. A group of youth kids had an encounter with what they say was a werewolf. One of the young men in the group thought their friends were just playing a trick on them, doing a little prank with having somebody else they know to dress up as this creature. Come to find out, none of them knew who was in there or who was doing it, and so it was not a trick. They said it just when it was standing on its 4 paws that it was about 5'7". So with werewolves, they can go on their hind legs. That would make it about 6.5 to maybe 7 feet tall. Once they figured this out, they all ran back to their car, rolled up the windows, and locked the doors and proceeded to take off. And they were up in the mountains of New Mexico, so they were doing 60 going down the mountains there. Not the easiest thing to do, especially when we live on mountains. I can't even do 60 driving down with the windy roads.
No, that's too dangerous.
So then finally, one of the boys in the car grabbed the gun they had on them, because for whatever reason where they're at, they had a handgun with them, and shot at the animal. It let out a noise, and then they saw it fall. And then it took off at an inhumane speed. They stopped the vehicle, turned back, saw where the creature had landed, but proceeded to find no blood trace of this animal on the ground. As they were totally freaked out, they all left and they all claimed that there was no way that was human and that it was a werewolf due to the fact of how fast it was running and it was keeping up with them in the car.
Well, it could also have been a skinwalker.
True, but for this one out there, because there's, I think, there's like multiple cases of either skinwalker or werewolf seen in the New Mexico area.
Yeah, I think one of the skinwalker stories I read was in the New Mexico area.
Yeah.
And that one freaked me out.
Yes, skinwalkers are no joke.
All right, do you want to do your other one, and then I'll do my story, the last one of the Goat Man?
Go ahead and do yours, and I'll do this one.
Okay, mine's kind of long. So there's allegedly a Goat Man in Maryland, which is crazy because we lived there for
2.5 years.
Yeah, and I've never like once heard of the cryptozoologist zoology things until after we moved. So there's the Goat Man and a Snallygaster in Maryland.
Heard of that one?
Yeah, you've heard of the Snallygaster, which is actually a German one. So some versions of the Goat Man is actually he's like a lover's lane type of crypto. Like he attacks cars with an axe.
Fun.
Yeah, but so this story, I came across this story. It was posted on Reddit 5 years ago, and as I was reading it, I don't know if it's Goat Man-like. It definitely seems more fae. And if you guys know how fairies play tricks on people and they're very mischievous, you'll probably get the gist of this. I did change the names and a few sentences just for clarity and continuity, but the story is still the same. So here is the story I found of the Goat Man. It was 2007. I was with a couple of my friends camping. I was 16 and was just with some 16, 18-year-olds on this fun camping trip out in the woods behind some of these guys' houses. We picked a spot in the clearing where it would be a little party kind of site, although I don't do drugs or even smoke weed or any of that. I grew up with all that going around me, so I tried to avoid it. But nobody brought weed or anything along, I don't think. So we all hung out in this clearing with 3 different tents set up and with a fire pit in the middle. We had planned to spend 4 to 5 days. It was summer vacation, so we didn't have school, and I think it was early August. Anyway, we all decided to hang out in the clearing, roasting marshmallows, and everyone but me having beers. I sat around making s'mores, or schmooze as I called them, but s'mores, and the sun was just beginning to set, and we were all having a good time. At around 7 or so, we heard something moving in the bushes nearby, and somebody threw an empty beer bottle at the bushes. We heard the smash and watched something climb out of the bushes and lumber back into the trees. We thought it was just some psycho person, but everyone got a little bit nervous. Later that night, I was asleep in the tent with 3 other people. The only person I knew was my friend, Mike, who invited me along. I remember everything being silent, and then I heard a sort of popping sound by the fire, and we all sat up. Crawling out, we could hear people in other tents' voices saying, "The fuck was that?" Mike unzipped the tent and we crawled out. The fire, which we had put out about an hour or 2 ago, was now roaring with flames. We put it out and thought maybe someone poured gasoline all over the fire and lit a match or lighter or lit the fire. But we never heard the gas pouring or a match being struck, lighter being flipped. We also didn't hear anybody running away because we would have heard them. It was at this point there was an awful smell, but I had a stuffy nose and couldn't make it out really. It may have been a skunk, but Mike said one of the other guys said it smelled like rotten meat, but we had not smelled it earlier or since. Some other people began holding their shirts up to their noses as if a pungent smell had just appeared. We were all a little on edge, but I guess someone else agreed, fuck it, let's just stay here. Nobody brought any guns to fend ourselves off, but one guy, who was about 18, said he had a pocket knife. On our second day there, nothing happened until it became night again. At around 4 a.m., we were all fast asleep and awoken by a noise behind our tent. We started to get out when Mike said, "Shut the fuck up for a minute." We sat in silence listening to the noises, which sounded like voices I couldn't make out. The voices seemed to be coming closer to us, and we quietly climbed out of the tent. The voices still approaching our camp. The 2 other guys in our tent crept to the other tents and woke up the other people, telling them to get out here. All 13 of us stood quietly listening to the voices get closer and louder. At the point where they had gotten behind our tent, we heard the voices stop, but an eerie humming noise was coming from the trees around us. One of the guys, I think named Ryan, who was 17 or 18, walked about 10 feet from where the tree line was, where the voices had been coming from. He said, "Oi! Who's there?" And we waited quietly for a response. We heard nothing except distant crickets. He walked back to us. Right then we heard the voices moving away, which to me sounded like what Ryan had asked, "Oi, who's there?" But it didn't sound like Ryan moving away. Almost like something was trying to mimic what he sounded like. I could hear the voice sort of crackly and jumpy, repeating those words as it moved off into the distance. We all got back to our tents but didn't sleep. The next day, someone had left to their house to grab something. They came back a little later with a potato gun saying he'd shoot the fuck out of the thing bothering our campsite. Around 7 p.m., not really partying but just huddled around the fire, a girl, just one of the two, stands up practically pissing herself, and we find out what's wrong. Here's one of the similarities I found with the well-known Goatman story. She said last night, when we were listening to the voices, there was another person with us. There was 13 of us now, but she insisted there had been a 14th. We all started to get nervous again, and Ryan told us he was going to run back to his house. He had a potato gun, he and Potato Gun Guy were neighbors. And he said he was going to get his father to come out here with a gun and wait. Someone went with him, and Mike and I were just talking to each other about how we could leave early if shit got too chaotic, which we're starting to get to now. We were in the middle of talking about how we should pack up when we saw Ryan standing in the woods. It was clearly him with his blue hoodie and jeans, and he was looking straight at us from about 40 feet away. But we didn't know what the fuck he was doing. The person who went with him wasn't standing next to him. It was just him standing alone, watching us. It was a 25-minute walk back to his house, but he couldn't have been back 5 minutes later. Everyone got really uncomfortable and started yelling, "Hey Ryan, what are you doing?" But he just kept watching us. He watched as he seemed to slink back into the trees. By now people were scared out of their minds, and I was too. Why was Ryan being a prick and just staring at us and not doing anything? We decided to pile into one tent and wait. A short while later, the other Ryan turned up with his dad and the other person that went with him, and his dad was holding a hunting rifle. Ryan told him what happened and what happened with the voices, and the father walked that way into the trees and to take a look around. He said it felt like eyes were watching him from every direction. Mike then told Ryan's dad that we just saw another Ryan standing in the woods staring at us. Ryan's dad walked over there and looked around too. He came back and he said he would stay with us and the gun, but he would control it. Because if we got too drunk and started shooting a gun around, we'd all kill ourselves. He slept in Ryan's tent. It was our third night and it was really fucking creepy. We quietly listened for it, being anywhere nearby. Mike had a funny look in his eyes and started sweating. He later told me that while we were all sitting around, he saw a strange figure moving through the woods, moving its arms in strange jumping motion. Around 2 a.m., we were all getting ready for bed when we heard it. It was saying something, but in a highish voice. It sounded like it was saying, "Oi! Who's there?" Completely mimicking what Ryan had said the night before. Ryan's dad tried to pinpoint where the voice was coming from and fired a shot into the trees. The gunshot was loud as fuck. Right after, we could hear a creepy chanting like a male voice. I was scared, Mike was scared, everyone was. The chanting sounded like a deep chanting, so not multiple people. Underneath the chanting, we could hear something mumbling noises. Again, another shot was fired, but I saw what Ryan's dad was shooting at. It was a figure crouched low by some bushes. It looked like a direct hit, but the figure did not move. Instead, it stood up, sort of hunched over, and moved back into the forest. We raced back into a tent, and I could hear crying and moaning coming from right behind our tent. All 4 of us in the tent were getting scared, and then I could kind of smell a strong vinegar smell that was very powerful. Then I noticed what looked like fingertips moving along the tent wall and to the door and moved down to the zipper to grab the part you used to open. Mike dove over to the zipper and held it down as whoever or whatever tried to pull it open. Mike and one other guy in the tent started yelling, "Who's out there?" After a minute, we could hear a screeching noise as this thing took off into the darkness. We decided to say, fuck the 4th and 5th day, let's get out of here in the morning. Here's the scariest experience of the night. At 3:45 a.m., I was checking my watch. I had to go pee. Since what had just occurred not long ago, I decided I wasn't getting out of the tent, and maybe I could stick my bird out of a small zipper opening. But then I pictured whatever it was out there biting or ripping my thing off, so I decided to open up the tent, slither outside just slightly, and pee to the side of the door. As soon as I was finished, I noticed someone by the furthest tent away. I grabbed my flashlight beside my pillow and turned it on and shined it towards the person. It looked like Mike, back facing to me, hunched over by the tent. But Mike was right behind me sleeping in the tent. I crawled back inside, but kept the light shined on the other Mike. I whispered, "Mike, wake up!" And the moment he did, I looked outside to see the other Mike stand up and turn facing toward me and stare at me. I dove back in and left under my sleeping bag and huddled there, awake as I explained to Mike what I had just seen. I guess at one point in the night I was facing the other way and was freaking out, but one of the other guys in the tent said he woke up, eyes still half closed as he rolled over. He could see the other Mike looking through the part of the tent flap I didn't close. He thought it was just Mike coming to wake them up, but realized the real Mike was asleep right beside him. He packed up and left.
That sounds like a skinwalker.
Yeah, isn't that just, ugh?
Yeah, that's creepy.
That's why it doesn't really sound like goat manish to me. I know, right?
Oh, it's the moon.
Yeah, it's the moon, honey.
I'm like, what the fuck is coming into the thing
But
right
that's
there?
why, like, that doesn't sound more like a goat man thingy.
But
it sounds more.
The goat man can mimic, I think, in some folklore and stuff with it, it can mimic a person's body.
But so can a wendigo.
Yes.
But I don't think that's. But isn't that just? Bleh.
Yeah, that one's creepy.
That's why I don't like camping anymore. I don't. I like glamping. Take me to Camp Hilton.
I love camping.
Not
Camping is something that I always love to do and everything.
I used to, but then I read stuff like this and I'm like, no. No. Oh, God. For those of you watching on YouTube, you don't want to know what's in here.
It's a good thing we were ways in because that would get us demonetized.
We're not even monetized.
Yeah, I know.
We're not even. We don't have no ad revenue.
Yeah, I know.
Not on YouTube. Not on YouTube.
No,
Isn't that just? Oh.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Oh.
And I was reading these and hearing the shit behind me. This doesn't help.
No.
Like, once we do get a good set and everything, you'll probably be able to hear this stuff behind us a little better. Especially if things are running.
Like earlier.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's pretty quiet. Thank Odin. But I still pray to Hecate. Nothing happens. Because of that and where we live. I mean, this was Maryland, where we used to live.
Well, I used to live in the boonies of Maryland. I used to live in Garrett County.
Yeah, and I've only lived in, we were in Baltimore County.
Yes. Before I met you, I lived in Garrett County.
Yeah, you lived in the...
I lived in the wood areas where shit like this would go down and could happen.
Well, I think the Snallygaster is supposed to be in Frederick.
That's only a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
Give or take.
But that's just... Oh.
Yeah, that right there is super creepy.
I don't like that. I don't like doppelgangers. I don't like things mimicking me.
Yeah, no. That one, that was creepy.
Yeah. Like, oh. Like you can't see, but I'm just like, oh. And I forgot to bring one of my amulets. So I feel so vulnerable. I have my runes. Oh, I just hit something.
Yeah, no, so did I.
Oh, it's you.
It's the chair.
Okay. Scaring ourselves here. This is a bad night to do cryptozoology.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just get your creepy one over and then we'll close it out.
Yes, my one here, I went into a website and found this. I can't remember the name of it, or else I would put the website there. But this is a Native American website doing tales about the wendigo.
Or wendigo.
It's
I've heard it
it's
both
wendigo
ways.
Or wendigo. It's all preference on how you say them.
Creepy mofo, how about that?
Never want to see.
Yeah. Because have you seen that Chiller TV short? The, what is it, like the Mordigo?
No.
It's very similar.
Do you want to stay here longer?
No.
Then let me get to
yeah,
this.
Just go.
Alright.
Okay.
While this creature is considered by many to be certain creation of horror winter Algernon Blackwood in his classic terror tale, The Wendigo, this wood spirit was and is very real to many of the northern woods and parties of the state. Many legends and stories have circulated over the years about the mysterious creature who was encountered by hunters and campers in a shadowy forest of the upper regions of Minnesota. In a variation of stories, the creature could only be seen if it faced the witness head on, because it was so thin that you could not see it from any side. The spirit was said to have ferocious appetite for human flesh, and the many forest dwellers who disappeared over the years were said to be victims of this monster. The American Indians had their own tale of the Wendigo, dating back so many years that most who were interviewed could not remember when the story had not been told. The Inuit Indians of the region called the creature by various names, including Wendigo, Witigo, and the Wetigo, but each of them was roughly translated to mean the evil spirit that devours mankind. Around 1860, a German explorer translated Wendigo to mean cannibal. Among the tribes along the Great Lakes, Native Americans' version of the creature spoke of a gigantic spirit, often 15 feet tall, and that had once been human, but had been transformed into a creature by the use of magic. Though all the descriptions of the creature vary slightly, the Wendigo is generally said to have glowing eyes, long yellowed fangs, and overly long tongue. Most have a shallow yellowish skin, but others are said to be matted with hair. They are all tall and lengthy and are driven by a horrible hunger. But how would a person grow to become one of these strange creatures?
Read faster.
According to the lore, the Wendigo is a creature whenever a human resorts to his cannibalism to survive. In years past, such a practice was possible, although still rare, as many of the tribes and settlers in the region were cut off by the bitter snows and ice of the North Woods. Unfortunately, eating another person to survive was sometimes resorted to, and thus the legend of the Wendigo was created. But how real were or are these creatures? Could the legend of the Wendigo have been created merely as a warning against cannibalism? Or could sightings of Bigfoot-type creatures have created these stories? While this is unknown, it is believed that white settlers of the region took the stories seriously. At times, they even took the sightings and reports quite seriously and made it enough of a local culture that stories like these of Rougarou Blackwoods were penned. Real-life stories were told, as well as, according to the settlers' versions of the legend, the Wendigo would often be seen banshee-like to signal a death in the community. A Wendigo allegedly made a number of appearances near the town called Roseau in northern Minnesota. From the late 1800s through the 1920s, each time that it was reported, an unexpected death followed, and finally it was seen no more. Even into the last century, Native Americans actively believed in it and searched for the Wendigo. One of the most famous Wendigo hunters was a Cree Indian named Jack Fiddler, who claimed to kill at least 14 of these creatures in his lifetime. Although the last murder resulted in his imprisonment at the age of 87 in October of 1907, Fiddler and his son Joseph, who were tried for murder of a Cree Indian woman, they both plead guilty to the crime, but defended themselves by stating that the woman had been possessed by the spirit of the Wendigo, and was on the verge of transforming into one entirely. According to the defense, she had to be killed before she was murdered other members of the tribe. So here's the thing, though. Is this made up to scare? Or is this possibly a creature that we cannot see? Because also, legends with this is this creature moves so quick, you don't even see your own death coming. Its speed is, you can hear it, but the second you're in that position, lights out.
The only fast thing I like is the Roadrunner and Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Oh, Speed Racer, can't forget him.
With this, there have been sightings of campers that go back to, I think, 2007, 2008, that were out camping, and while they were setting their camp, they felt a presence there but couldn't see anything. But at night, because they started to smell a rotting object and hearing noises around them, but it would dissipate. And when they would come out, they would see this creature staring from a distance away.
No.
And they would run as fast as they could, but some have been attacked, some have gotten away and told their story. Other ones must have their stories, but aren't saying it in case of being put in a sanatorium.
That's how it is with most, like, you know, cryptozoology. But I don't want to ever meet a wendigo. The closest I will be is the video game Until Dawn. Or that one game with the Popo Hunter.
Yeah, Until Dawn, that game brings out a depiction of what one looks like. Other depictions are, as I just said here, of it. Other ones are saying that it has
antlers.
Yeah, it says the antlers of a deer.
Yeah.
The body of a human that is just rattling with decaying skin coming off.
Something I don't want nightmares of.
And the hunger it has is because when you go into that taboo of eating another human, you result back and you start transforming. The hunger becomes so great that you just change completely. You lose, your body deforms, and you just lose all your humanity from it.
Yeah, I'll have to, like, if you know what I'm talking about with the Chiller channel, but it's like the Mordio or something like that, where he's like eating flesh, like he grows the antlers out of his hat, and then his face like elongates with like a deer skull, but with sharp teeth.
Yes,
it was a really well done short. It was a really well done.
The teeth on it are just the presence of what dark spirit you've just consumed, because consuming another person is considered to the ultimate and most taboo you never break.
Yeah.
You never do that because you will inherit this hunger for more.
Yeah. Either way, it's a no thank you.
Yeah, and
it's a no thank you.
With my family, so my family comes from Mexico. I am Mexican, but we also have gone back to, we do have some Indian in us. I wholeheartedly believe in this. I wholeheartedly believe in these folklore, these cryptozoologies for these things.
As do I. I mean, I don't want to. That's why, like I said, you like camping. That's on you. I will take our little guy and we will go to a hotel with a pool and a slide.
Yeah.
Ugh, this is a horrible night to do these.
Yeah. Like
it is just creep factor back here. Like, y'all can't see, but it is just like the moon is like peeking over the trees. There's stuff jittering around. It is.
And here's the finishing part of it. There are many stories told of the Wendigo that have been seen in the northern Ontario near the cave of the Wendigo. It legit is something that depicts drawings on the wall.
And
around the town of Kenora, where a creature has been spotted by traders, trackers, and trappers for decades. There are many who still believe in the Wendigo, roams the woods and the parties of the northern Minnesota and Canada, where it seeks human flesh or acts as a portent of coming doom. Is anyone guessing? But before you start to doubt that it exists, remember that stories and legends of these fearsome creatures have been around since before the white man walked on these shores. Legend have gotten started somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah, I always hate that thing. What was it? Brave. Legends are based on truth.
That's the story of the Wendigo.
Yeah. You can also find them in that first season of Supernatural.
Yes.
Yes. I know that's the wind.
I might crack my wrist.
No, you didn't hear the
car.
We're gonna go with that.
No, we live by a freaking road.
I know, but everything's just so creep factor 10,000.
Yes, especially with these stories out here.
I know, and my chair keeps like wanting to kill me. Shh, don't wake up the dogs.
Alright.
Alright, is there anything else we wanted to say before we get the hell out of Dodge? Besides our closing statement?
Just on our next episode, we are going to be doing cursed objects. We're not going to tell you what they are, but the next one coming out is going to be cursed objects from around the world. And I do have a funny one.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah, we're still looking up cursed objects, trying to find ones that like not a lot of people know about. Different from cursed images, of course.
Yes.
Some of those are cursed.
Cursed images are portraits and stuff like that.
Just like
the objects we're looking at all have stories behind them and multiple encounters of what happened with them.
I'll say one that we're not going to do.
Which one?
Little Bastard.
Yes, everyone knows I won that card.
Like Little Bastard. The if you don't know, it's the car that killed James Dean.
That card is always... everyone even told that car is cursed. No, you shouldn't have
And
got
anyone who had a piece of that car ended up with a horrible fate.
Yep, they all died.
So we're just going to do cursed objects like that and find the stories of those. And you want me to do the wrap-up?
Yes.
Alright, so I actually typed up an outro this time. Go me, go me.
Just come on.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube, and share it if you enjoyed it. If you would like to share your stories shared, you can email us at CrimsonChaosStories@gmail.com, or we also have a subreddit called So Weird Stories. We are available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public, all thanks to Anchor. You can follow us at Twitter at Crimson__Chaos, and Facebook or Instagram at CrimsonChaosStories.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Stay spooky and creeped out. Let's get out of here.